Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today's video is the long-awaited and long-promised video on sunscreens I've been working on. Before we get into the video, I want to touch on a couple things. If you don't want to listen to me talk, rude, but there'll be a timestamp in the screen here where you can just skip ahead right to the meat of the video. First, my nails are back on. I know some of you love them, some of you hate them. All that matters really is that I love them. The snow up in Tahoe has been kind of sad lately, so I've decided that my season is over, so they're back. I do have, I normally do acrylic overlays, but these are all tips now. I'm gonna have to wait for my nails to grow out underneath them and then slowly trim them. Finally feel like myself again. Like I've talked about before, again, not everyone watches all my videos. I grew up in nail salons in the 80s and 90s, so I've had long nails since like the 90s. They were my natural nails, and then I started doing like the acrylic overlays and things in college, but I just love my nails really long. It was so weird to look down at my hands without the nails, just because I'm so used to seeing myself with it. I felt like I was having like a existential crisis or something. I was like, I can't figure out what's wrong with me. I don't have my Invisalign on top anymore right now. I do still have it on the bottom. I had some gum contouring done on the top, so my mouth is a little sore right now still. I will be doing a whole video on my Invisalign experience after I get my permanent retainer in the bottom, and everything I've done on March 5th. Is my final appointment. So after all that stuff is done, I've been doing like check-ins throughout my journey with everything. I will have a video for you guys. It's kind of cold in the city today, so I have a full face of makeup on, but I have a tank top on under here with my hoodie on. Again, I have an irrational fear of wasting a good outfit on YouTube because I don't like to do my dry cleaning. What I wanted to talk to you guys about is the video that's going to be coming out right after this one that's set to go live on Monday. Is going to be the first ever sponsored video I've done on my channel in 3 years that I've been here. Sephora reached out to me and asked me if I would like to collaborate with them to show you guys some of my current favorite products that they carry. It was not price, brand, or product specific. It was anything I want that they sell. Since I already shop there and I love Sephora, it was a no-brainer for me. I was worried at first thinking I was gonna start getting comments like, oh no, here you go, you're gonna turn into every other like sponsored robot or whatever a lot of people think. I promise you I won't. These opportunities, again, this is the first time something like this has presented itself that's not typically the sponsored videos are saying like, hey, this brand wants to pay you to say that you like this sunscreen, and I've just never been comfortable with that, and I will never do reviews for brands in exchange for money or anything like that because it's hard to point out negative things. Every contract I've ever seen specifically states that I cannot say anything negative, which is understandable because it's basically like they're paying you for a commercial. So again, I've passed on a sickening amount of money in the past 3 years, but I don't ever want to lie to you guys, and I don't ever want to pad the truth. You guys will just have to wait to take me at my word that I'm not going to be doing like sponsored videos all the time. The video that's going to be coming out, instead of it being like basically like an advertisement for a specific brand or product, it's basically just going to be kind of like an advertisement for shopping at Sephora, which I think the majority of us do anyways. I feel comfortable working with distributors like Sephora because I already love them, I already shop there, and it's a very natural thing for me. I'm finding is I'm more comfortable working with distributors or retailers opposed to brand specific. That way it just gives me like option to talk about whatever they have. All the brands that they carry are at my disposal. I do this channel for fun, but if I ever have the opportunity to make money while being honest about the products and maintain the standards that I hold my channel to, I'm definitely going to. It seems foolish to pass that up. I do want you to know though that this opportunity was presented to me. I mean, I do work hard on my videos. I never want to negate the effort that I put in. I was afforded this opportunity because of you guys, the ones that shop through my links that I have in the description box, because those are tracked obviously. If that video that goes up is well received, then I will probably likely get more opportunities along the same lines in the future. So I greatly appreciate all of your continued support. Thank you guys very much. Lastly, I wanted to apologize for this video taking so long. I was the research, there's so much stuff to digest and read out there, and I have so much going on in my personal life right now. Over the past couple months, I feel like I'm hanging on by a sanity thread. I believe a lot of us go through times like that. I have some very close friends that are battling some very serious illnesses. My lease is up at the end of next month, and they're raising our rent again, which is already, if I told some people what we pay, you would probably choke. So I don't think that we're going to be staying here. We actually just got the package to give our notice. So I have to figure out where we're going to live, moving. I just have a million things going on top of, you know, the new company I've started, and just, I feel very frazzled. I've been preoccupied. I haven't been on social media a lot. Honestly, just because, you know, in the midst of me having one of my, I've lived with anxiety my whole life, since I've been a kid, generalized anxiety disorder, but I have had it under control for the past probably 6 years or so. But since I have so much on my plate at once right now, I'm just extra tense, and I'm sweating, and I'm hot all the time, and I feel like I'm constantly about to fall down a flight of stairs. Any of you guys that have ever had that feeling, you know what I'm talking about, where you feel like you're trying to catch yourself. For me anyway, social media can make that feeling even worse. When I was freaking out about all these things, my friend had to have a tumor removed from her spine, and everything in the midst of this, you know, I wasn't on social media that much, and I started getting texts from some of my friends. I was getting notifications of DMs that people were freaking out because I wasn't making a statement on the shit show that has become the Deciem Instagram page, and it's just I understand some people, it came from a good place. They wanted to let me know, so I thank those people for notifying me. Some people, I just had some really rude passive-aggressive comments. Some of them accusing me of working for them because I wasn't commenting on it. And I swear to God, some of these conspiracy theories that people will weave, I'm sitting there I don't know if these people are high or they just have really active imaginations. I have no idea. Damned if I know. But that stuff is just agitates me even more. It just annoys me. And so I figure it's one of those things, if I have nothing nice to say, I'll say nothing at all in regards to people that were doing that. I've just had to take some steps back for my own sanity because, again, as my channel and my platform has grown, the level of people always trying to put their input on how I should look, how I should speak, how I should live, what I should comment on, what I shouldn't comment on, products I should like, products I shouldn't like, what I should eat, what I shouldn't eat. It's oh God, it can get annoying at times. So typically if I take a leave of absence like that, it's basically just I either have a lot going on, work or personal life, or I just don't feel like dealing with the masses. Sometimes I read these comments that people leave on social media, and even though I'm by myself, I have to stop and look around over my shoulder who in the hell are these people talking to? It cannot be me. Sometimes people just need to realize that people have lives and stress and issues of their own that they may be dealing with. Just because we don't talk about everything on social media, I don't catalog every minute of my life on social media, so it's one of those things. It's picture you being in one of your most stressful situations and people just pick. Why aren't you saying this? Why aren't you saying that? Once upon a time you cared about this. Blah, 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 blah. It's chill. Everyone needs to chill. People a lot of times want you to say something on their timeline, and if you don't react to something right away, then people will be oh, you must work for this person because you're not saying anything, or you do this or you do that. I mean, some of the stuff is so asinine I shouldn't even comment on it, but for those of you that are rational and for those of you that care, I just wanted to explain where I've been. You know, I can't be a champion of every single cause out there. I wouldn't have any time to do anything else. So if it's something that I want to comment on, I will, and if it's not something I want to comment on, I won't. That's just how that works. I can't put my life on hold and invite drama sometimes or other issues into my life when I'm already dealing with stresses from my real actual life that I have to live. I think for most people, you'd hope that maybe if you've notified me and I continue to talk about the products in the future, I can't keep tabs on every asshole on the internet. I mean, it's just not possible. It seems like every week some brand is doing something atrocious on social media. So, you know, I do the best I can. My main interest in this channel is to be a consumer advocate for you guys, to try to recommend only good products, make sure you're not ripped off. So it's never I'm trying to turn a blind eye to something. again, I can't do everything and I can't be something to everybody. If I continue to talk about the products down the road, feel free to bitch at me then. Otherwise, cut me some slack or give me a break sometimes. For those of you that just wanted to notify me and make me aware of the situation, thank you kindly. For those of you that wanted to be rude assholes, they can kick rocks. I can't tell sometimes if people are completely oblivious to the fact that other people have lives and other situations outside of social media, or if they just think I stay glued to my phone, eating, breathing, living social media. Either way, I don't need to be the Maury Povich of the beauty world. Thank you, though. Now on to the video. So I'm going to attempt to give you the most information possible that I have found in a digestible way, hopefully. I'm basically going to try to touch on the what, why, who, when, where's area. I'm going to have, as always, timestamps below next to each topic that I'm going to cover in case you do know some topics and you just want to skip around or you only care about certain things. Also have all of my sources cited below. It'll actually probably be in a pinned comment that I leave below because I'm only allowed a certain amount of characters in my description box, and I tend to fill it up anyway with all the products I talk about. So it'll probably be the pinned comment there, and then you can just click on the links and read them. It's a lot. Just so you guys know, since this is so much data, I do have some notes. So if you see my eyes moving, it's because I'm reading some of those that I have prepared. Sorry if that's distracting. It's just a buttload of information. I want to make sure I'm not missing anything. And since this is such a serious topic, because it can lead to cancer and other things, I want to make sure that I don't pass on any wrong information. So at the very core of this, at a basic level, let's talk about what is sunscreen. So sunscreens are going to be products that combine several ingredients typically. They're ingredients that are supposed to help prevent the sun's ultraviolet, which I might start using abbreviations, so I might leave a key up in the screen on one of these sides here. Ultraviolet, I'm just going to call UV, UV radiation from reaching the skin. Let's talk about the types of rays that affect your skin. So we have ultraviolet, we have visible, and we have infrared rays. They all penetrate through multiple layers of the skin, some deeper than others. The two you hear about the most in skincare are UVA and UVB. Now, what's the difference between UVA and UVB rays? So the sunlight that reaches us is made up of two different types of harmful rays. So we have long wave ultraviolet A rays, which is the UVA, and then we're going to have the short wave ultraviolet B rays, which are going to be the UVB. UVA rays penetrate deep into the skin's dermis, which is the skin's thickest layer. So UVB is the chief culprit behind sunburns, while UVA rays, which I mentioned earlier, that they are the ones that penetrate the skin more deeply, are the ones that are associated with wrinkling, leathering, sagging, and other light-induced effects of aging, otherwise known as photoaging. They also exacerbate the carcinogenic effects of UVB rays and are increasingly being seen as the cause of skin cancer on their own. Sunscreens are going to vary in their ability to protect against UVA and UVBs, which we'll cover in a little bit. Just for a little food for thought, I'm going to show you guys a picture in the screen right here. This was something that I saw on the news that went viral many years ago, and I've heard that it's since been included in some books covering sunscreens and the potential damage of the sun's rays. This man was a truck driver, and so in the US, when you're driving, your left side is going to be the one that gets the most sun because you have a passenger seat on your right-hand side and you get more shade on that side. So in this man's picture, you can see the side of his face that was getting the sun from driving when he never wore sunscreen. You can see how much more that one side aged opposed to the other side that lived just his regular life, whether it be if he did smoke, I don't know, or drink or whatever it is. I had some people tell me when I posted that picture, I shared it on Instagram, and some people question whether they thought that that was really from the sun or they did think maybe it was from smoking or drinking. But the problem with that theory is, why would it only be half of his face? Maybe I could give you smoking if the cigarette was hanging out of the same side of his face, but I mean, it's visible his entire face on one side, which again, that is from sun. When I lived in Massachusetts, I never tanned, I don't think. I probably went to tanning salons like maybe a couple times in the summer if I was going on vacation or something. But when I moved to Arizona, that first summer I moved there, I laid by the pool because I didn't know anybody. So I had nothing really to do on the weekends when I would go to work and come home. So I literally just laid by the pool and I pretty much like lubed myself up with like tanning accelerators, which I wish I could go back and kick my ass when I was doing that, because that was terrible. And if you watch some of my older skincare videos, you can see pictures where I was so tan, because I am Italian. I tan very, very easily, but I had so much sun damage. Like, I had this spot above my lip that I thought was hair because I can grow like a full mustache. I was sitting there trying to like pluck it out, figuring like, why is that not going away? And I couldn't grab any hair, and it was just, your upper lip is actually way more easy to get sun damage on. I don't know why that is, but I had basically this dark spot right there from sun damage. It's pretty difficult to get rid of. I had a chemical peel, and then I had to use some medical grade skincare for a while just to start lightening all of that sun damage. And I still, up close, I mean, they look like freckles, but on me, these, like, when you get really close, you can see they're not really freckles. It's all from sun damage. When you go to tanning salons, again, when I lived in Arizona, if I was busy working and I still wanted to be tan, I would go to the tanning salons. Tanning salons expose your skin as much as 15 times more UV radiation than the sun, and has contributed to the increase in melanoma rates, so stay clear. I'm going to show you a chart here in the screen as a visual aid. Wavelengths are measured in nanometers, or nm. A nanometer is a billionth of a meter. Nanometers are just a unit of length, just like meters or centimeters. That happens to be useful for measuring wavelength of light. So here you can see the UVB reach of radiation goes from 280 nanometers to 315 nanometers. It inflicts more potential damage in superficial epidermal layers, but it may penetrate to the dermis. UVB harmful effects. It's going to be a primary cause of skin reddening and sunburn. It's a factor in the development of skin cancer, and it contributes to photoaging. UVA reach of radiation. The wavelengths reach between 315 nanometers and 400. The rays are consistently intense throughout the daylight hours, regardless of season or cloud cover. Radiation penetrates dermis deeper than UVB. It delivers about 95% of the UV radiation reaching the Earth's surface. The UVA harmful effects. It's going to accelerate photoaging effects like wrinkles, roughness, blotchiness, hyperpigmentation, poor skin tone, sallowness. It damages keratinocytes, thereby contributing to the development of skin cancer. Infrared reach of radiation. Near infrared wavelengths are between 780 nanometers and 1400 nanometers. Manifested as heat on the skin's surface, it penetrates deeper than UVB and UVA rays, reaching the subcutaneous layer of the skin. Counts for about half of all solar energy reaching the skin. Infrared harmful effects are associated with loss of skin elasticity, induces production of free radicals, combined with UV rays shown to inflict cumulative damage. Let's touch on what is SPF. So SPF stands for sun protection factor. Sunscreens are all classified by an SPF number, which refers to their ability to deflect UVB rays. The SPF rating is calculated by comparing the amount of time needed to burn sun-protected skin versus unprotected skin. Sunscreens are made in a wide range of SPF coverages. Sunscreens with an SPF greater than 50 provide small increases in UV protection. I personally never really bother with anything higher than 50. I feel at that point you're just paying for nothing, and it's just more expensive, or it's a marketing ploy. Every day I wear an SPF of 50, but I would recommend at least a 30. So just to break it down how that works a little more, if it takes 20 minutes for unprotected skin to start turning red, using an SPF 15, sunscreen theoretically prevents reddening 15 times longer, so about 5 hours. Another way to look at it in terms of percentages is that an SPF 15 is going to filter out approximately 93% of all incoming UVB rays. SPF 30 is going to help keep out 97%. SPF 50 keeps out 98%. They may seem like small differences, but if you're light sensitive or you have a history of skin cancer, those extra percentages will make a difference. There is no sunscreen on planet Earth, though, that can block all UV rays. There's a popular misconception that SPF relates to the time of solar exposure. For example, many people believe that if they normally get sunburned in 1 hour, that SPF 15 allows them to stay in the sun for 15 hours without getting a sunburn. This is not true, because SPF is not directly related to time of solar exposure, but the amount of solar exposure. The sun is stronger in the middle of the day compared to early morning and early evening hours. That means your risk of sunburn is higher at midday. So solar intensity is also related to your geographic location, with greater solar intensity occurring at lower altitudes as well. So your mileage is going to vary depending on where you are and how long you've been out there. I was reading articles about how there are problems with the SPF rating system, just because no sunscreen should ever be expected to be effective longer than 2 hours without reapplication. The second issue that I was reading about is the reddening of the skin is a reaction to UVB rays alone, and that tells you little about what the UVA rays damage you might be getting. Plenty of damage can be done without that red flag of sunburn being raised. You will see some sunscreens labeled as broad spectrum on there. As of June 2011, sunscreens that pass a broad spectrum test can demonstrate that they provide UVA protection. What that means is they are full spectrum protection, protecting you from UVA and UVB rays. The best sunscreens offer protection from both UV lights. Not all sunscreens are broad spectrum, so it's important to look for it on the label. A lot of sunscreens available outside the US, you may notice this PA plus symbol. This rating system was developed in Japan to represent how much UVA protection the product offers. So the SPF rating in the US focuses on UVB rays, which are responsible for sunburn and skin cancer, where the PA rating is focused on UVA rays that are responsible for photoaging effects. So you could think of it as the SPF one is gonna protect you in terms of like the skin cancer rays, and then the PA rating is gonna be more for cosmetic reasons. The letter PA and then all the different pluses, it goes up to 4 different pluses after it, is a rating system that's gonna tell you how much protection you can expect from the UVA rays. Sun's UVA rays do not cause sunburn, but it does cause the skin to turn brown. So even if you're already of deep skin tone, you can still get sunspots, which is going to be that pigmentation coming up. And actually the UVA rays are known as the sun silent killers because you don't feel them affecting you. But despite the lack of pain that you may feel with UVA rays, they penetrate deeply into the skin, causing a somewhat different type of damage than UVB rays. So if you see a PA plus, that's going to mean some UVA protection. If you see a PA with 2 pluses, that's going to be moderate UVA protection. A PA plus 3 is going to be high UVA protection, and a PA of plus 4 is going to be extreme high UVA protection. As helpful as a PA rating system may seem, there are drawbacks to that system just as well as with the SPF system, although the SPF system in the US is more reliable from my understanding in my readings opposed to the PA system. First, not all countries agree on the PA measurement values and how they're achieved. The primary issue is that the PA rating measures how the sun's UVA rays cause the skin to become brown and stay brown, which is a process called persistent pigment darkening, or PPD. Problem is that not everyone's skin turns brown from being exposed to the sun, especially when exposed only to the sun's UVA rays. In the actual testing to determine the PA rating of sunscreen, the color of different people's skin after UVA exposure is inconsistent. Some skin gets darker, some not so dark, and some take longer than others to turn brown. The PA rating is also not related to time as SPF numbers are, which causes a great deal of confusion for people when they see something like SPF 50 plus and then the PA number below it. Basically, the issue is nobody knows from person to person how long the PA protection is good for, because everybody is different. Regulatory agencies in most countries, including the European Union and in the United States, use the SPF ratings to include both UVA and UVB protection. This process more accurately represents a real-world experience on how people's skin respond when exposed to the sun, not just UVA or UVB. In these countries, the term broad spectrum protection is on the label to indicate the product has passed testing to show it protects from both UVA and UVB damage. So again, a lot of these, I have a lot of Japanese and I have a couple Korean sunscreens that I'll touch on in a minute. But you will see that none of them say broad spectrum on there. They all have an SPF and then a PA rating after it. So I'm going to read this to you off the FDA website. According to the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, the FDA, scientific data demonstrated that products that are broad-spectrum SPF 15 or higher have been shown to reduce the risk of skin cancer and early skin aging when used with other sun protection measures, in addition to helping prevent sunburn. In Europe and some other countries, sunscreens are regulated as cosmetics, not as drugs, and they are subject to different marketing requirements. Any sunscreen sold in the United States is regulated as a drug by the FDA because it makes a drug claim, which is to help prevent sunburn and to decrease the risk of skin cancer and early aging signs caused by the sun. It's considered an over-the-counter medicine. The FDA developed an in vitro broad-spectrum test, which is the standard for over-the-counter, which is sold without a prescription, sunscreen products that determine which products are allowed to be labeled as broad-spectrum. Now, what does it mean when you see water resistant on sunscreen? So first of all, there's no such thing as a waterproof sunscreen. All sunscreens eventually wash off with water. But sunscreens that are labeled as water resistant are required to be tested according to the required SPF test procedure. And the labels are required to state whether the sunscreen remains effective for 40 minutes or 80 minutes when swimming or sweating. And all sunscreen must provide directions on when to reapply. The term water resistant means that the SPF is maintained for up to 40 minutes while swimming or sweating. Very water resistant means the SPF is maintained for 80 minutes. So now let's touch on how you should wear it, how much of it anyway. Let's touch on that first. So to ensure that you're getting the full range of sunscreen protection, a lot of people are getting less than what the label says because they're not applying enough, or they're applying other products over top of it too soon and it's watering their SPF protection down. So it says an average sized adult or child needs at least 1 ounce of sunscreen protection to cover their entire body, which is going to be about a shot glass full. And again, that's from head to toe. Think about like if you're at the beach or something. Of course, that amount will vary depending on body size, so it's not the most accurate gauge because, again, everybody's size, height, and weight and all of that does vary. You should use approximately 2 milligrams of sunscreen per square centimeter of skin that is exposed to sun. So if you're just doing your face alone, which, again, you should be mindful of doing your neck and your chest. Like, I have a lot of sun damage still on my chest. You can see right here, all the freckles. Eventually, I'd like to do like an IPL laser treatment on my chest or something whenever I get around to that to kind of zap all of those brown spots. And I've been way more mindful of bringing my skincare down onto my chest. But again, it was a lot of damage that I did. I always have put it on my neck, but I wasn't very good at making sure that I had my whole chest covered. About a nickel size amount dollop for your face alone. And you could actually buy a separate 1/4 teaspoon to measure. About a 1/4 teaspoon is what you need to cover an average face size. That is pretty much the amount that most people will need to achieve the proper coverage. I'm going to put a link down below to Future Derm, which talks about how you can actually get more specific with it and measure your actual face, because some people do have smaller features, some people have larger features, and if you use too much of like a physical sunscreen, it can get kind of ashy or really thick. So you want to make sure that you're using the right amount, but you're not completely overkilling, because if the sunscreen isn't comfortable for you to wear and you don't wear it well underneath your makeup, you're likely not to use it as much. So it is kind of important to figure out how much you need. So I will have that article linked below, and then you can kind of figure that out yourself if you want. Studies show that people typically apply only about half of what's required for sunscreen, which means that the SPF they have on their body is actually lower than the advertised strength. I read in an article that said if you're going to the beach, one person should use around 1/4 of an 8-ounce bottle, which I don't think I've ever used that much when I was at the beach for the day. Reapplication of sunscreen is going to be just as important as putting it on in the first place. So you need to make sure that you're reapplying the same amount every 2 hours that you initially put on. Sunscreen should also be applied immediately after swimming or toweling off, or if you're sweating a great deal. Physical sunscreens tend to work immediately, while chemical sunscreens need to be absorbed by your skin to be effective. So you need to make sure that you're applying chemical sunscreens at least 30 minutes before sun exposure to allow the ingredients to fully absorb into your skin and become active. And again, I will be touching on the difference between chemical and physical sunscreens in a little bit. SPF 30 or higher is what I recommend. I max out at 50 just because, again, I don't feel like anything above 50 is giving me any additional benefits. Sunscreen should always be your final step in your skincare routine because any skincare that you apply over top of it could possibly dilute the effectiveness of it. If you really want to boost the effectiveness of your SPF, you should layer an antioxidant underneath it. So for me, I wear a vitamin C every day, but a vitamin C with a sunscreen on top is really going to go the extra mile for you. And again, it doesn't have to be that vitamin C, just like any antioxidant or vitamin C. You should also let your sunscreen completely dry before putting on foundation or BB creams or anything else that you're going to put on top, about 3 to 5 minutes. When you do apply your foundation, it should be in downward motions or kind of like blotting it in like that with your sponge. You shouldn't buff like this because that can disturb the sunscreen below and kind of move it around and make sure that you're not getting even coverage. Then the question of how often should you reapply. Physical sunscreens that contain zinc oxide, the particle breakdown on the sunscreen is slower than that of a chemical sunscreen. As your zinc is like bouncing those rays or UVA rays back off your skin, it is going to cause some breakdown. If you're in direct sunlight, even with your physical, you're still gonna need to apply it. Something like titanium dioxide, which is a physical sunscreen ingredient, it does not degrade in the sun, so it's really kind of like the gold standard for physical sunscreens. If you are in direct sunlight, your sunscreen should be reapplied every 2 hours, physical or chemical. If you're working indoors, just getting sun between like your car and going into work or your car and the house, it should last you all day given you're not sweating profusely. Make sure, I cannot stress it enough though, make sure that you're reapplying if you are in direct sunlight because not only time breaks it down, but the exposure to the UV rays breaks it down. So a lot of questions I get are how do you reapply sunscreens over your makeup? There's really no easy way. I do have some sprays, and then they do make some mineral powders that have sunscreen in them, but basically when I go to the beach, if I am in direct sunlight, which is rare, because I am that person that sits under an umbrella when I go to the beach, again, just because I worked so hard to get rid of all the sun damage I had, and melanoma runs in my family. So besides just the pure vanity of it, skin cancer terrifies me. So I just stay out of the sun altogether. When I was younger, it's nothing I really thought of. I think sometimes when you're young, you think you're invincible and that things will never happen to you. And as I've gotten older, I get paranoid. So no. I've also had some things that I call like little barnacles, like on the top of my thighs, especially on my left side that got a ton of sun when I was living in Arizona. Like I have these few little spots that I get that are like gray, and some of them are come with age, but like they have to be removed by my dermatologist. And so again, I just don't mess with the sun at all. But if you do need to reapply, the best thing to do is, so like I wear BB creams that have SPF in them too when I go to the beach, or like a waterproof foundation that has sunscreen in it. So I will have my sunscreen on, a second layer of protection over top. I mean, in the off chance that I was in the direct sunlight for more than 2 hours, I would carry makeup wipes with me. I would remove my makeup. I would put sunscreen back on and then just kind of rub in the BB cream again. But your best bet is to not wear that much makeup when you are going to be in the sun like that. Powders that you can dust over top are probably the trickiest form of sunscreen because in order to get adequate protection of what they're advertising, you have to use a ton of powder, and that's just not gonna look right when you're sitting in the sun. I just had to take a break and take my Invisalign tray out on the bottom because it's rubbing the tip of my tongue raw and it's making it really hard for me to pronounce certain words. If you're going to the beach with like a full contour and highlight, you're gonna have to bring a little makeup bag and reapply all of those products, excuse yourself to the bathroom, because otherwise you're gonna be messing all of that up. Now let's talk about the difference between chemical and physical sunscreens. And I think this is one of the most important things, obviously, besides how much you put on. So physical sunscreens are gonna be mineral, or also referred to as inorganic sunscreens. These are going to be sunscreens that are going to reflect and scatter the UV radiation. Physical sunscreens are typically less irritating to the skin unless you have a sensitivity to one of those two ingredients than chemical sunscreens can be. And then chemical sunscreens are called organic sunscreens. They're going to absorb the UV radiation, and it actually converts it to something that's not harmful to your skin, which is actually a very small amount of heat. A lot of popular Asian sunscreen brands make hybrids, which are going to include both physical and chemical actives. Here on the screen, I'm going to show you a list of acceptable active ingredients for products labeled as sunscreen that's directly off the FDA website. Physical sunscreens tend to be best for those with sensitive skin. They can be hard for deeper skin tones to wear because they typically are a lot thicker and they can leave a white cast. So for physical sunscreen, something like zinc oxide needs to be at a minimum percentage of 5%. Ideally, though, it should be between 10 to 20%. I like to wear physical sunscreens that are at a 20%. Titanium dioxide needs a minimum of at least 5%. 25% is the maximum by law that they're allowed to use. Some of you guys asked me questions about for like babies, what they should wear. And since I'm not a doctor, I'm not very comfortable giving out advice of what to apply to infants or babies. Since they're so precious, I don't want to give any misinformation. And again, I'm not sure if your child has sensitivity to any certain ingredients. Infants under 6 months of age should be kept out of direct sunlight as much as possible because their skin has not been protected yet by melanin. The FDA does say when you take your baby outside that you should cover them up in protective clothing that's tightly woven and loose fitting so they don't overheat, and a sun hat. They advise to make shade, use the stroller's canopy or hood if you can't sit in shade and you guys are in direct sun. Most manufacturers advise against using sunscreens on infants and advise parents and caregivers to consult a doctor first. For toddlers and children, sunscreens are a very integral part of a day in the sun for them. Young children's skin is especially sensitive to chemical allergens as well as the sun's UV rays. So physical sunscreens are probably going to be best for most children, again, given that they don't have sensitivity to either one of those two ingredients or anything else that's mixed in it. So my advice on that is going to be to consult your pediatrician. You should always test patch your sunscreen on your child to do a little patch on the inside of their wrist to just see if a rash or anything develops to make sure that they don't have a sensitivity to any of the products. Now, before I get into all of these sunscreens that I've actually tested, I got some requests from people saying that they don't use sunscreen because they have a fear of developing cancer from the sunscreen ingredients, which is always a possibility in this day and age. It seems like everything we do exposes us to cancer, or, you know, anything that you put on top of your skin that your body's absorbing, anything that you eat, drink, I mean, you're always going to have risks. There have been way more documented studies showing a direct correlation between not wearing sunscreen and getting skin cancer than using products and developing cancer. I do want to touch on a few things now that I've scared the crap out of you about the damage sun can do. Now I'm going to scare the crap out of you about the potential damage that some of these products can do. Some concerns have been raised with some chemical sunscreen ingredients and even a couple with the nanoparticles that are used in some physical sunscreens. Laboratory studies have indicated that some chemical UV filters may mimic hormones, and physicians report sunscreen-related skin allergens, which raises important questions about the unintended human health consequences from frequent sunscreen application. So I wear sunscreen every single day unless I am 100% sure that all I'm doing is working from home. If I'm just working from home and I know I'm not even going out to go to my package locker, I'm just going downstairs to get the mail from my mailroom and I'm not outside, then I won't wear it. But otherwise, I wear a sunscreen every single day. I prefer physical sunscreens because they are most effective, and I don't like the idea of my skin absorbing those and turning the light rays into something else. I don't know, I feel best about physical. It's also easier for me to use because I am fairly light skin tone, so I don't get a white cast from any of these. The FDA has not reviewed evidence of potential hazards in sunscreen filters. Instead, it kind of grandfathered in ingredients that were used in the late 1970s when it began to consider sunscreen safety. The Danish EPA recently reviewed the safety of active ingredients in sunscreens and concluded that most ingredients lack information to ensure their safety. 16 of the 19 ingredients studied had no information about their potential to cause cancer. And while the published studies suggest that several chemical filters interact with human sex or thyroid hormones, none of the ingredients had sufficient information to determine the potential risk to humans from hormone disruption. Although there is evidence that octocrylene is responsible for reproductive toxicity, the trials use doses far higher than would be used in cosmetics. That doesn't mean to say that there aren't dangers, only that we really don't know what the dangers really are, which I know can be scary. Now, in something like physical sunscreens, they use something called nanoparticles, and that's because if you think back to like where you'd see those old movies and you'd see lifeguards and they'd have that big line of like zinc down their nose and underneath their eyes, and it was that really thick cakey chalk, and sometimes they even had it in different colors. The reason they have made these particles tinier size, basically that's what the nano is because they don't leave as much of a white cast. Zinc oxide is really the best for physical sunscreens because it's stable in the sunlight. It doesn't deteriorate. And the nanoparticles are used to make them less chalky and white. The smaller the particles, the better SPF protection you get, but the worse UVA protection you get. I looked up lots of articles, and the main concern for people was that if it's a nanoparticle, it's being absorbed completely into your blood and in your body, and some people were worried about poisoning. From the studies that I've read, it's showing that nanoparticles in sunscreen do not penetrate the skin. Some studies have indicated that nanoparticles can harm living cells and organs when administered in large doses, but a large number of studies have produced no evidence that zinc oxide nanoparticles can cross into the skin in significant amounts. It's unlikely that nanoparticles in sunscreen cause skin damage when energized by sunlight. Titanium dioxide and to a lesser extent zinc oxide are photocatalysts, meaning that when they're exposed to UV radiation, they can form free radicals that damage surrounding cells. Nanoparticle sizes of these minerals are way more affected by UV rays than larger particles. Sunscreen manufacturers commonly employ surface coatings that can dramatically reduce the potential for photoactivity, with data suggesting that they reduce the UV reactivity by as much as 99%. However, tests of living skin from human volunteers and animal testing suggest that these hazards are not a concern for human safety because free radicals that are generated by nanoparticles on the skin are quenched by the skin's own antioxidant protections. The number one concern with physical nanoparticles is that you do not want to inhale them. So if you had something that was like a physical sunscreen like this that had nanoparticles and you're spraying it and breathing them in, that could be damaging to your lungs. I'm going to link some articles below that you guys can read up that are going to scare the crap out of you. Always keep in mind that literally anything you eat or drink, I'm pretty sure you can go online and find something that's telling you like, we're all going to die. So don't freak out too much about that. Again, keep in mind that not wearing sunscreen is way more dangerous every day if you're exposed to sun than not wearing it. If you can find a physical sunscreen, I think that those are going to be the best for 99% of people out there. The question just is whether your skin, it blends in with your skin, because if you do have a deep skin tone, it can be very difficult to find a really good 100% pure physical sunscreen. I'm going to link some environmental working group articles below. I'm going to link pros and cons to both. Some people that will tell you they're not dangerous, some people that will tell you they are. The biggest dangers on these ingredients that I'm reading up on tend to be the O's. There's a bunch of them on there. One thing for sure, you want to avoid sunscreens with vitamin A. It's funny because I've seen a lot of people try to say that sunscreens would never have vitamin A in them, because watching Kimberly Clark, and she was discussing some sunscreens and some people were like, don't worry. I was reading in her comments, people were like, sunscreen would never have vitamin A in it or retinol. It's like, in this study I was reading, it says 14% of all sunscreens are produced in 2017 contain retinol. So keep an eye out on that. The biggest one for me that scared the crap out of me is this octinoxate. That's in a ton of these sunscreens, and from some of the reports I was reading, talks about the same thing, that it mimics estrogen and can be dangerous for you, which I was like, okay, that's terrifying, because it's almost every foundation that contains sunscreen, and it's in almost all of these sunscreens that I had bought previously. In the screen here, I'm going to show you a list of some of the ingredients that they recommended to steer clear from. One ingredient that I'm going to put on the screen so I don't butcher it right here. That is an ingredient that's the most common in all of these, and it has been found to be in mother's breast milk, and it does mimic hormonal activity, which may cause some disruptions in the body. So once I read that, this has been one of my favorite sunscreens for so long, the Obagi Sun Shield, and that is one of the active ingredients in here. So needless to say, I have not repurchased this. The current one is in a silver tube now, but that kind of scared me a little bit. And since I have a couple other sunscreens that don't contain that ingredient, I figured why even risk it. Ultimately, what I'm going to tell you is to check with your doctor, because I can't tell you what's best for you. I'm not a doctor. I'm not qualified to give that information. And again, you can find something that'll tell you your foundation is going to grow legs and choke you in your sleep. So make sure that you just find reports that from either publications that you trust. I was reading in a ton of medical journals. The actual Department of Dermatology says that that ingredient isn't a concern. So again, just, you know, take everything with a grain of salt that you read. Talk to your doctor. They're going to know you way better than I will, obviously. I can't even hold all these. Okay, so I had all these, and these. I sent a sample of each one to Ripley with actually on an Excel spreadsheet. I gave the numbers because I bought these little containers to send them to her in. And then I had her take pictures for me. I had her take a control picture that was her with nothing on her skin, just in the sunlight, and then one with a flash to see what her skin looked like, so you can see them verse. So she did all of these sunscreens on her skin, again, in sunlight, and then with a flash to show if there was any flashback. All of these physical sunscreens are going to cause slight flashback for me because, again, the way they work is reflecting those light particles back. So you're going to get flashback with all of these physical sunscreens. The only way to really not get flashback with any of these SPFs is it's 100% chemical. Given all the health implications that could come with that, that's only something I would recommend using sporadically. If you have like a special event that you're going to be photographed outdoors for like a wedding or something, then maybe use that. But otherwise, my preference is going to be to stick to physical sunscreens. I'm going to put a picture up here on the screen. I put a drop of each one of these sunscreens on my arm to just kind of show you the consistency of them, so you can kind of get an idea of how thick they are. Some of them are way more watery than others. Now, the only thing that I worry about with these is I don't speak Korean or Japanese. I went on and I looked, I used some of the little apps that you can take a picture and it translates, but since these are chemical names, it's not as common for them to properly translate them. And also I found very conflicting, like sometimes on Reddit, when I was just like searching the name of them, you can go into some of the Asian skincare forums and they have what the ingredients are, but then sometimes the formulas have been updated and sometimes I found other conflicting, like maybe ingredients are flip-flopped. So I've done my best to cross-reference these ingredients as much as possible. I'm going to leave a link in the description box to my Google Drive, which will have this to download in case you are curious. And please keep in mind, this is as accurate as I am aware. There may be some mistakes, and again, because I don't speak these languages, I can't really say for sure. In the screen here where I'm showing you that, guys, the ingredients, I'm going to have highlighted what the sunscreen protective ingredients are. And then if it's something that's on that, like, be afraid for your life list, I'm going to highlight that in red just so you know it's kind of like a cautionary ingredient. So this one I'm going to have highlighted on the screen based on the ingredients, which ones are the ingredients that were on like that watch list to kind of be careful of. And this one just didn't really wow me. It was just like, it was okay. And as I talk about the sunscreens too, and I'm showing you the ingredients, I'm going to show you Ripley's control picture and then the other pictures with her having it on and with flash, just so you guys can get an idea, if you are deeper skin tone, how these will work for you. Next is the one that I recommend, not only for the affordable option that I had listed in my affordable, but if you have oily skin, this is the Etude House Sunprise Mild Airy Finish. All of my friends that have tried this that have oily skin swear by this. They said this actually works as a primer for them too, and it kind of controls the oil. The cool thing about this is a physical sunscreen, and this still goes on the skin really nice. Ripley did have, in the picture she sent me, it looked like a slight cast on her skin. Nothing that I would consider noticeable, really, to me anyway. I mean, again, you might notice it different. Ripley did say that she didn't mind this one. I mean, it wasn't her favorite, but she didn't mind this. I think it's because of the alcohol, and Ripley has kind of sensitive skin. That's one thing. All of these Asian brand skincare, with the exception of one that I'm going to talk about, all of them contain alcohol and they're all really high up in the ingredient list, which is kind of concerning because if you're constantly applying products with very heavy alcohol in them on your skin, it can cause some cellular damage and dry you out. From my readings and my understandings, they contain a lot of alcohol for their dry down and the tact. So I've never found a sunscreen that doesn't contain alcohol that has worked for oily skin, that doesn't turn into kind of a mess. This one does contain alcohol, but this would be my choice for anybody with oily skin. What I would do is make sure that you have other skincare down underneath this, and then when you put this on top, because it does have alcohol, if you have other moisturizers or things underneath your skin, that shouldn't really cause an issue. That one doesn't have any of the be afraid for your life ingredients either. Next, I was really excited to try this Aloe Soothing Sun Cream. This is the SPF 50 from COSRX. This is a Korean skincare brand. This one, I liked this one on my skin. Ripley had a cast from this. This did not work well for her. So this COSRX one has that one ingredient that was the Be Afraid for Your Life, and that was the second ingredient in here. So just because of that, I'm gonna avoid. What I did like about this one is while it contained drying alcohol, it was kind of in the middle of the formula instead of in the first 4 ingredients, which a lot of other brands are. But just because of that, I would skip. Next is this Anessa, does it called? I'm going to call it Anessa. This is actually a Shiseido brand, and this is their drugstore. So this is made in Japan. Add ingredients in it, the ones that are on the watch list. I didn't like the way that this felt on the skin. Ripley said this made her skin burn. So this is going to be a skip for me all around. Next up is the Anessa Essence UV Sunscreen Aqua Booster, the SPF 50. This one has that Be Afraid for Your Life ingredient and also alcohol really high up, and I find it very runny, and it feels, normally when I think of Essence, I think of something that's very hydrating. The first ingredient in here is dimethicone. That's just gonna be a skip for me. And these are actually, those ones were some of the more expensive ones I purchased. Next up is going to be the Biore UV Aqua Rich Watery Gel. This is made in Japan. The second ingredient in here is alcohol, a drying alcohol. The third ingredient is that one that's Be Afraid for Your Life that they're trying to scare us. So again, this is one that I know this is has a huge cult following, but this is going to be a skip for me because how high up the alcohol is. I'm not saying these products aren't going to look good underneath makeup, because actually all of these looked really good underneath my makeup, again, because I am fair. But given just the ingredient deck on some of these, I just think it's not worth the potential irritants and long-term damage that much alcohol can do for your skin. Next is the one that was my favorite from my more affordable skincare routine. I had a bottle that I used many years ago, and I couldn't remember what this was. I had thought that this was a physical sunscreen because on the box it says mineral on there, but what it is the mineral water. So that was lost in translation for me. This is made by Shiseido, makes these Senka lines. And this one does have that Be Afraid for Your Life ingredient, but I still really like this. I like this for days that I know I'm going to have a lot of pictures taken of me. This is a chemical sunscreen, and I do like this one. Alcohol is the fourth ingredient in here though, but this would be one of my picks that would be a keep. Next up is the Can Make Mermaid Skin Gel UV. The bottle of this is really pretty. This does have one of those bad ingredients that has been flagged, that out of all my readings was the one that concerned me the most, but this is the only one that I've bought that from overseas that did not contain alcohol in it. So if you have sensitive skin, this would be good for you. So if you're gonna do outdoor weddings or something and you don't want any alcohol, this is one that I hadn't tried before, but I would definitely get this one then. So that will be in my list of approves. Next is the Shiseido. This is the Cinca. Again, I'm reading this, but I'm reading it off my list because I can't read what this says. This is the Cinca Mineral Water UV Gel. This does have some bad ingredients in it as well. That one that's afraid for your life. And alcohol is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th ingredient in here. So just given that, I don't mind it on my skin, but it's definitely nothing to write home about, so I wouldn't get that one. Next up is the Biore UV Aqua Rich Watery Essence. So the difference between this one is the watery gel and this one is the watery essence. Again, these two seem to have had a big cult following on a lot of skincare blogs, which I don't personally get. This does go underneath my makeup pretty nice, but again, based on the ingredients, the second ingredient in here is a form of alcohol, and then the third ingredient is that one that's like, be afraid for your life. So this would be a skip for me. This is going to be one of my favorite sunscreens. This is the Drunk Elephant Umbra Tint Physical Daily Protectant. This contains 20% zinc oxide in here, which is the best ingredient possible. This does have a light tint to it. Now, for me, it's right on the cusp. When I rubbed this in, I thought it was going to be a little too dark, but it's not. I go over it with my sunscreen. Ripley took a picture. I think this is one of the better performing on her. This was the best, actually, performing physical sunscreen on her with that tint. Again, you have to make sure that you're applying enough, but because that does have the slight tint to it, it's not going to look as ashy as something that's 100% white color like this one. This one does not have one ingredient that concerns me in it. It's actually these two that I'm going to talk about are actually the cleanest sunscreens that I have up here, which Drunk Elephant is known for not using a lot of junk in their products and being very mindful of that. These sunscreens don't smell good. They smell like chips, like Fritos. Stale Fritos, I don't know, but again, I rub it into my skin and the smell goes away. So this is one of my favorite. When I went to Bali, I actually brought this and I loved this. It worked really well, especially in the humidity there. It does have a light shimmer to it, but that would be one of my top picks. Next is the Josie Moran. This is the Argan Daily Face Moisturizer with SPF 47. You guys have probably heard me talk about this a bunch of times before. I prefer my moisturizers and my sunscreens separate just because I don't feel like either one does a very good job of doing either. When they're mixed, I like my moisturizer to be extremely moisturizing, penetrate my skin as deep as possible. Sometimes the sunscreen ingredients mixed can make it that it's not able to penetrate as much. I really liked this one. This one did leave a slight tint on Ripley's skin, but all these ones that we're about to talk about now are the ones that she preferred too. This one I really, really like. This would be a winner for me. That one does it really well with the moisturizer. It does have some good ingredients in there as well. Nothing in there causes me any concern, and none of them are that oh crap ingredient. Next is the Drunk Elephant Just the Umbra Sheer Physical Daily Defense. Now this one is white, but it has a slight tint to it. You'll be able to see in the pictures up close. It's not 100%. It's almost like a light salmon color. It's not as stark white as like my Obagi one. And again, I don't like the smell of these, but it goes away. And all of the ingredients in here are really good for you. So this is going to be one of my winners. That one did cause a tint on Ripley's skin a little bit. Next up is my Obagi Matte Sun Shield. I loved this sunscreen and swore by it for so long, and I still really like it, but it has that ingredient in there that's making me concerned after I read all these reports. Now, I got this from my dermatologist's office, but I'm concerned about that ingredient now, so I don't know if I'll be wearing this anymore. I'm not sure. I'll have to decide. Next is my Dr. Dennis Gross Sheer Mineral Sun Spray SPF 50. I really enjoy this. The trick is you have to shake it And you have to make sure that you're applying enough of this. The directions actually say to spray this in your hands and then press it into your face. This one doesn't have any ingredients in here that cause me any concern. I really like this sunscreen. And last but not least, I bought so many sunscreens I did not want to spend any more money, but during my more affordable skincare routine, I mentioned if you had rosacea or sensitive skin, that sunscreen was something that you really should have like maybe spend a little more money on that out of everything in your skincare routine. And I mentioned the Elta MD formulation one. It's the UV Physical Broad Spectrum SPF 41. All of the ingredients in there I really like as well. It does have a slight tint to it. That is going to leave slight tint on those of you with darker skin as well. But if you have sensitive skin, that 100% is the way I would go. I sent that to my friend that lives in Arizona that has rosacea, and she wouldn't give it back. And I'm like, do I really want to spend like another, what was it, like 33 bucks or something on another sunscreen? I'm like, I bought too many, no more. So just as a quick recap, if you have oily skin, I would recommend the Etude House Sunprise Mild Airy Finish. If you want an affordable chemical sunscreen that doesn't have any alcohol, I would go with the Can Make Mermaid Skin Gel UV. If you have dry skin and you want a chemical sunscreen that you're not going to wear as often because, again, of that ingredient that's causing me a little concern, get the Cinca Aging Care that comes in this bottle. Again, it just does have that scary ingredient that I'm keeping my eye on now. If you don't mind shopping at Sephora and you have dry skin, I would get the Josie Maran Argan Daily Face Moisturizer SPF 47. And the next is if you really want like a heavy duty, very clean sunscreen, I would go with one of the Drunk Elephant ones. If you're light and fair, I would get to the Umbra Sheer Physical Daily Defense one. And even maybe medium. But if you are even light, my color, to deep, I would get the Drunk Elephant, the tinted one. You will see a slight cast on it if you are very deep, but I think if you just go over it, give it time to absorb. Again, that's important. Give it time to absorb, dry down, and then apply your makeup on top. And I don't think it should be too bad. And then again, if you have sensitive skin, I would go with the Elta MD. That's all I pretty much have to say about all these things. I hope I didn't give too much information where it was completely boring and some people just like blanked over. I would love to hear what some of your sunscreens are. Just because I didn't have something featured in here doesn't mean it's not a good sunscreen. It's impossible for me to buy every single sunscreen on the market and try every single sunscreen on the market. I've tried a decent amount. These are the ones that had excellent reviews or like cult followings or ones that I hear spoke about often. So those are the ones I went after, some more affordable options and then some more pricier options. If you guys found this video helpful, if you guys have any questions, comments, or concerns, please leave them in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for tuning in, guys, and I will see you next time. Bye.